Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to the SEMO Sports Zone presented by A-Corp Sports. Week 5's in the books. David, what'd you think about this week?
Well, we're kind of midway through the regular season, and we're kind of figuring some things out. Districts are kind of coming into focus a little bit. Mm-hmm. We kind of know who's going to be the favorites and everything. We're still not having a ton of close games, which we want. I think hopefully this week coming up, we're going to have a few better games, But yeah, we're just kind of figuring some things out here and who's good and who's not. Yeah.
Do you think it's kind of been not set in stone, but kind of more hardlined of just like, all right, if you're 3-1, you're probably pretty good. If you're less than that, it's kind of become more middling.
Somewhat. I mean, there's some teams that don't have great records that have played a really tough schedule. Sure. So that it should be lessening up here, coming up in the future. Other teams have a really good record, and their schedule's about ready to get a little tougher. So I don't know. We're gonna find out here, obviously, in the next few weeks. But like I said, the districts are we're kind of seeing who's kind of the favorites in the districts, and some of them are just going to be wide open, I think.
Right. All right. Well, let's start running through Friday's scores. We got Hayti at St. Vincent 14-42.
Yeah, this one kind of surprised me. Hayti, they just couldn't defend the pass. Yep. St. Vincent just passed it all over them. I think Wyatt Winkler, their quarterback, had 5 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. This one kind of surprised me, even with some of the injuries that Hayti has. I thought Hayti would at least play this one fairly close, and St. Vincent just blew them out, and that's kind of surprising to me. I don't know. Hayti again. Turnovers, penalties, those things continue to creep up, and I don't know. There's just not seems to be a fix for those yet, and so I don't know. Hayti, I was real high on them when the year started. I don't know if I'm as high on them now for sure.
Yeah, and I think we kind of didn't allocate that. They've got a really tough schedule in comparison to a lot of teams around here, and it just, when you make mistakes like that and injuries pile up, things like that, it's even tougher.
Yeah, you just can't overcome them. And then, like I said, with the injuries that they've had, they're a freshman quarterback, I believe. So, and he's doing okay. It's just that's a lot to ask for a freshman. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. It's just things aren't clicking right now at Hayti, and they need a win in the worst way, I think, just to kind of get some confidence back.
Yeah, I would say so. Do you think in the next couple of years that's going to even out though?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a program that's definitely on the rise. I mean, they've got a lot of good young talent there, so I think it's going to be something that's good for them. But right now in the Class 1, District 1, we kind of figured them as the favorites coming in. Right now, they'd be the 4 seed out of 5 teams, and that's kind of surprising and not exactly where I expected them to be at this point in time. But things happen during the course of the year, and they've got plenty of time to right that ship.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. We've got East Prairie at Kennett, 8-46.
Kennett got that offense going. East Prairie again. We've talked about it all year. They're very young. Not a lot of seniors there. But Kennett. Ty Jones had 4 touchdown passes. He's got a lot of good wide receivers to throw to, a lot of weapons, and they kind of use those against East Prairie. East Prairie was just a little bit outmatched, but I'm really being impressed with what Kennett's doing this year and the way they've improved. And of course, Coach Wyatt, we knew that they were going to get better, but they've really got it going. And Tavion Ware, for somebody he's basically all that East Prairie has right now offensively. He got 150 yards, and good for him. I mean, those are tough yards to come by too, because Kennett's not a bad defense. And, he was able to get some yards, and I think they looked a little bit better against Kennett than they did against Dexter, and that's good. They've improved a little bit. It's just that they're just kind of outmatched against some of these teams.
Yeah, and it's just kind of harder to gauge at this point where East Prairie really stands. I mean, you look at that 0-5 record, and that's glaring, but you look at some of the other teams around here that East Prairie hasn't played, and it's like, where do they match up actually?
Yeah, and they're 0-5, but look at the teams they played. Scott City, who's 4-1. You've got New Madrid, who's 3-2. Dexter, who's state ranked. You've got Kennett, who's 3-2. I mean, they've not played any, and Father Tolton, who's I think undefeated. I mean, that's a tough schedule for a young team, and that's just they've just taken it on the chin week after week. But it's just a brutal schedule to start with.
And you would debate that that's good, especially for a young team, that it's like you're facing adversity to start with, and it kind of builds you up.
It's good.
You don't think so?
I don't think it's good at all. I mean, you want to have some confidence. You don't want to have these guys continually beaten down, and I mean, I think you need. I mean, hopefully that they're going to get in here and get some games that they can be a little more competitive in coming up here, and that's going to help. But I mean, I know I wouldn't want 5 games like that in a row for a young football team. I mean, it's facing adversity is one thing, but not 5 weeks in a row and just taking it on the chin, because you can. It's hard to keep a team together when you're just getting beat 40, 50 points every week.
Well, and I think that's less a focus on the team and more just kind of consequence of scheduling too.
Right. Yeah,
it's last year's schedule that you're kind of facing.
Yeah, and it's nothing that, I mean, there's nobody to blame. It's just unfortunate. It's just an unfortunate situation. And they did play New Madrid very close, and they were in that game to the very end, and just that was a tough loss. And I think if they could have got that win, I think that could have, I mean, even playing them close, I think helps with their confidence. But I think they need more games like that.
Sure. Well, all right. Moving on, we've got Jackson at Poplar Bluff, 69-7.
Thanks for playing Poplar Bluff. Jackson's just rolling right now. I mean, who's going to compete with them in this area? I don't think anybody. I mean, they're just dominating everybody, and I think we're going to see a few more scores like this coming up in the next few weeks. Yeah,
they're kind of riding on that. Well, I mean, they got a game against Cape coming up. I was excited about the game last year. Did not end up being that exciting of a game. So I don't want to say that it's not going to be a game, but at the same time, I feel like Jackson's in that stage where it's just like, now they're going to roll for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a game at all. We'll talk about that, later on in the show. But I think Jackson's just going to roll everybody around here. They are very, very good, and they just. They're just a machine right now.
Well, I guess to kind of pose the question, where do you think this stacks up with their 2020 team?
I'm right there with them. It possibly even better. But this defense is just solid, very, very solid. That 2020 team had a great offense like this one. Probably their offense was probably a little bit better in 2020, maybe. It's tough to compare. But defensively, I almost like this team a little better. Even though that 2020 team was outstanding as well. I mean, but they're very comparable. I mean, they are very, very comparable. And I think, Class 6 is really tough, but I think Jackson has a real legitimate chance in Class 6.
I don't see any detriment to this team either. It's not like offense seems lopsided compared to defense. It kind of just feels like it all clicks.
Yeah, I agree. And man, if they can stay healthy, I just like the chances of this team. They are just so good offensively and defensively, and just solid. And I mean, they're just no weakness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for a lot of teams around here, they're sick of hearing about Jackson. But at the same time, keep your eyes on them. Postseason rolls around. That's somebody to root for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to be rooting for them for a while in the postseason.
Moving on, we've got Farmington at Sykeston, 42-6.
Yeah, I was at this game, and Farmington just kind of took it to them. Sykeston just looked a step off, in this game. Farmington they had some big plays, and they did what they needed to do, and just took care of business. Sykeston just struggled to score. Atkins was out. That hurt them. Being their big play guy. And again, Pierce Baker just struggling to find anybody. Because he's constantly under pressure. Mm-hmm. It's just teams have realized you got to put pressure on him, and he does what he can. But man, it's just did find a weapon in Terrence Williams, who made a couple of really nice catches, but man, Farmington just kind of took it to him, and Sykeston just another team who's just had a really tough schedule with losing to Cape and Dexter and now Farmington and Carruthersville, all teams that are either have no losses or one loss. So it's just a tough schedule for Sykeston right now.
Yeah, I think momentum too is one of the biggest factors in this game. Sykeston's defense was just gassed, and because they were on the field constantly.
Yeah, Farmington did a nice job of just controlling the ball and not letting that offense on the field. And when they did, Sykeston just couldn't get much done. Farmington's pretty good defensively, and they're just a solid football team. And Sykeston just like I said, they seemed to step off, and some of that probably had to do with Farmington just kind of keeping them off balance by keeping them off the field offensively, and then defensively. Sykeston struggled to stop the run, and Farmington took advantage of that.
Yeah, and I think the point where you could say it's like, all right, this is just kind of in the bag was that onside kick. I mean, you return that, you put the defense back on the field, and then score another touchdown. It's tough. You can't really stop that.
Yeah, at that point, it's just kind of like, oh, here we go. Yeah. And you hate that, but Sykeston missing some linebackers, so it makes it really tough to stop their run game, and it was just things just didn't work for them, and Sykeston's just they talk about a team that needs something good to happen. Sykeston's a team that really needs something good to happen right now.
Yeah. All right, moving on, we've got Malden at Scott City, 6:48.
Another team that needs something good to happen is Malden. Scott City just. Again, it's very similar game. Scott City just kind of took care of business, and nothing too flashy, nothing, just like, hey, we need to go out and do this, and they did that. And Rustin Underwood, man, he's tough. I think he had 4 touchdowns. Jackson Gloth, he had another good night. I mean, those two are a great 1-2 combination, and they're kind of overcoming that Kelly loss. And so they look pretty good. Defensively, they look pretty good. And Malden's just, again, they're just struggling to find something positive to happen.
Yeah, for Scott City, I mean, it's strange because right now they're what, 3-1?
I think, 4-1. Yeah,
4-1. Yeah, and for them, I always consider them as kind of being that middle of the pack team, but right now they're in the upper tier, like just on their win schedule. But
yeah, I mean that loss to Kelly just is kind of glaring because nobody really expected it. If they win that game, they're undefeated and they're one of the top teams in the area. But that loss just kind of stays in there with everybody's mind, which
I feel like is interesting because the more people I talk about it, they're just like, I don't see how they lost that game.
Yeah, and watching the game, it was just Kelly just does that to some teams. They just kind of bring you down into that ugly kind of game scenario, and and Scott City just fell into the trap and just couldn't get out of it, and probably didn't play their A game. But you got Scott City's not a team that's good enough that you can't bring your best game every week. You have to bring that best game every week if you want to win. And I think they kind of learned that against Kelly, and we'll see how they finish out the year. But so far they've kind of taken that lesson to heart.
Yeah, and I feel like this team this year is better than the team last year, and I was already pretty impressed with the team last year. I would say they had flashes, especially against Porterville, that were just like, oh, this is different. And I feel like they're more consistent this year than they were.
Yeah, I agree. And they're going to be a tough out when it comes to district time. I know they're in Class 3, but that's right now I think they're the 2 seed in that district. So I mean, that could be a Dexter Scott City matchup that they have like in week 9, and then again in the district at some point. So that could be a good matchup for both those teams.
All right, moving on, we've got New Madrid at Kelly, 26-6.
Yeah, this was just kind of speaking of Kelly. It was just kind of wasn't it kind of an ugly game? You kind of moved the ball early. They gave up a big play early to Kelly for a score, and then kind of, their defense kind of stiffened. They stopped them at the goal line a few times, and defense looked better for New Madrid. I think it's the second week in a row they've only given up 6 points.
Yeah, so improvement.
Yeah, so their defense is getting much better, and Kelly they just could not finish. It was just one of those things where they can move the ball a little bit, but just couldn't finish. And New Madrid, they have that big playability, and they were able to get some big plays.
Which for Kelly, I mean, what do you take away at that point? Do you just say, all right, we can move the goal line down, but you need to finish, and that, as good as that sounds, like we can move the field, like. Yeah, points on the board are what matter.
Yeah, you got to figure out a way to score, and they've got Kelly is what Kelly is. They're going to run the ball, they're going to run some play action, and they are what they are, but they just got to be able to finish, and that's one of those things that just comes with they're another team that's kind of young, not a lot of not a lot of seniors out there. So it's one of those things that you just got to learn and figure it out. And I think they'll do that. They've got a good coaching staff there. They've had some success this year, and they're going to win some more games. I mean, this is just one of those games that if they played again, I think it would be maybe a closer game. I think the game was closer than 26-6. I really do feel like it was a closer score than that. But again, Kelly just big. I thought that goal line stand. I get into the first, early second. I thought that goal line stand was kind of the big turning point in the game.
Do you think next year, just going off of experience at that point, if they start focusing more on offense and defense, do you think that's going to shift this kind of program?
It could. It could. They're definitely going to be better next year, I think, with some more experience. And so, they've got a very good offensive line, which I think is a lot of seniors, so they'll have to replace those. But yeah, they've got the ability to be good this year and kind of maybe pull an upset in district. This is just a game that just didn't work out for them. But if they played it again, who knows?
Sure. Moving on, we've got Cape Central at St. Dominic, 7-20.
Yeah, Cape Central, I thought they maybe have some trouble in this game. St. Dominic is a pretty good team, undefeated. They had a dude named Dominic Palo, I think was his name. Ran for over
great football name.
Yeah, ran for over 200 yards against them, and that's a good Cape Central defense. So he's getting some those yards against a really good defense. And my biggest concern with Cape Central is, can they score in a game against a really good team? Can they score enough to win? And they just couldn't. They just couldn't get their passing game going. The running game, they kind of sluggish very much. The game, Murray only 12 carries, 39 yards. They just couldn't get anything going offensively, and that's kind of my biggest concern for this team against some good opponents is, can they score enough to win? And they just couldn't in this game.
Do you think that's going to be a factor going forward too?
Yeah, they've got Lift for Life on their schedule. Obviously, Jackson on their schedule. Those are a couple of teams that you're going to have to score. Because your defense can only do so much, and because those teams are going to figure out ways to score. And I just don't know if this Cape Central offense can score enough to keep with those teams. So yeah, I think it's going to impact them coming up. But Coach Gibbs and his coaching staff, they'll try to figure something out. But, when you lose your best running back, at some point that's going to play a factor, and it's kind of seeming to play a role a little bit here.
Which, it sounds very doom and gloom, but at the same time, this is Cape's first loss in the season, right?
Yeah, it's not doom and gloom, but it's just
it's something to note.
Yeah, something that you kind of thought would eventually catch up to them, and it finally has. And St. Dominic again is a good team, and they've got some tough teams on their schedule left. Obviously Jackson, obviously Lift for Life. Those are some state ranked teams that they're going to have on their schedule that they're going to need to be clicking both offensively and defensively, and so those are. But the other games, I think they're going to be just fine. So,
moving on, we've got Marquette Catholic at Saxony Lutheran, 48-34.
Yeah, this seems to be like it was a really good game. One thing I've noticed about Saxony is they'll give up points.
Sure.
They can score, but they also give up points. So defensively is kind of where I think they're lacking a little bit. But McDowell was under constant pressure this game, but was able to make some huge throws and look pretty good. And they had it cut to 28-26 in the third quarter, and a couple of big plays for Marquette Catholic. And I think that's kind of what's biting Saxony right now, is giving up some big plays. They can kind of limit that. I think they're going to be okay. But here's my question: is you look at Class 1, District 1 with Saxony, Portersville, Charleston, Hayti. Who comes out of there? That's going to be a really nice district right there between those four teams. Any one of those four, I think can win that district.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see those teams actually start playing each other begin with. And like you said, once district rolls around, it's kind of fresh at that point. You can take the season and if you don't have common opponents, you can't really gauge who's who. So once that rolls around, I don't know, honestly. I'm starting to favor Saxony because, we talked about East Prairie having those losses and how that impacts your team. I think losses for this team and how it impacts your team are much better because you learn your weaknesses and you learn your strengths at that point.
I agree. And, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of starting to lean towards Saxony. We'll find out a lot more this week coming up, but Saxony, they can score, and that's something that's, they seem to be able to score on anybody. So that's a big positive for them. And And if their defense can just find a way to get some stops, that's going to be big. And so yeah, I mean Saxony's. But Charleston can score as well, and but they just we'll talk about them here in a little bit. But I mean this I think it's one of those things where it's just kind of a toss up between those four teams. Hayti gets healthy. I mean we know that they can be good when they're healthy, so we'll see. We'll just see what happens. But that's going to be a fun district to watch.
Absolutely, and I think it's just a difference in play styles because Saxony up north they play that style of game, and then come down to the rest of the teams in Class 1, they play a different style. It's just that more athletic speed and like hard-nosed football. It's going to be that clash of personalities.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun to see how Saxony matches up against some of these teams in Class 1 for sure. And they're going to play Charleston this week coming up, and that ought to be a fun game. But that'll be a good measuring stick to see where both of those teams are right now. Absolutely.
Speaking of Charleston at Porterville, 18-27.
Yeah, this is the only game that really surprised me this week because I'd been pretty high on Charleston, and we didn't know about Porterville, because they had that one game they missed. They played a tough schedule, but Porterville came out and kind of took it to them. It was just a great win for them. Pulled away in the fourth quarter. They've got a good running back in Hickenbottom. He had a really good night, 173 yards, and Max Warren, their quarterback, is really good. We talked about him early in the year. We thought he could be good, and he's made some big plays for them, and just untimely turnovers for Charleston that kind of hurt them. But Porterville, that's a big win for Porterville, especially in districts, because they'll have that tiebreaker over Charleston and could end up being able to get to host a game, and just a nice win for Porterville.
Yeah, I think when I look at this game, I look at Porterville, and I've always liked Porterville as a team, but I look at this game this year and just kind of say, finally.
Yeah.
Finally, we're getting kind of more of a look, and a good win for them. Absolutely. It's just, I want to see more than, conceded victories. And that's just, you chalk that up and say, all right, we won, but whatever. I want to see Porterville in more decisive wins like this that kind of show me, okay, this is where the team's at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is, like I said, this is a great win for them. Really builds on their confidence, really kind of, takes them, again, that's a huge win as far as district seeding, because I mean, right now, they'll have the tiebreaker over Charleston. That'll be the 2 seed, right? If they start districts right now, and then you get a home game, and it's all, and Porterville plays better at home.
Sure.
So that's a big win for them, and
it's a sneaky win too.
Yeah, and it's kind of one that I know. I talked to somebody from Charleston on Friday, and they thought they thought they were going to go down and handle Porterville pretty easily, and I'm like, I don't know about easily. I mean, I expected Charleston to win, but Charleston's another team that you can't just come in there. You got to bring your A game every week. You're not good enough to not play well and still win against most teams. So you got to play well every week, and turnovers, penalties, man, that's going to kill you every time, and that killed Charleston, and Porterville took advantage of it.
Yeah, I think for Porterville, I mean, just keep your consistency at this point. Hickenbottom is a great running back, so just keep that going.
Yeah, they're seeming to find their identity a little bit, and even some of the games they've lost, I thought they played pretty well in. It's just that they just weren't able to pull it out. But they've been in all their games, and Porterville is not a bad team at all.
Moving on, we've got Dexter at Southern Boone, 28-17.
Yeah, I watched some of this game yesterday, and Dexter jumped on them early, did what they wanted to, built up a pretty good lead, and then right before half, they threw a pick six, and the momentum kind of changed, and Dexter just kind of held on to get that win. They've got a really good defense, Dexter does, and they were able to get the stops when they needed to. But offensively, Southern Boone seemed like kind of figured some things out against Dexter, and Dexter wasn't able to break off a lot of big runs, and they kind of controlled their run game a little bit. Dexter just really couldn't get on track, offensively in that second half. But still a nice win. You go on the road, 4 or 5 hour trip, and get a win. And Southern Boone's not a bad team. I think they played. Talk about teams that played a really good schedule. I think they played. A really tough schedule to start the year.
And they lost most of their players from last year.
Right. And they're very young, but they're a team that I think is not bad. I was pretty impressed with what they were defensively. They hit well. But But you could just tell that they were kind of young, made a few young mistakes. But that's a good win for Dexter going on the road, and for that long of a trip and getting a win there. So, good for them, and just kind of taking care of business.
So I think what we need to talk about too a little bit is how does Dexter handle adversity when that squeeze kind of comes in?
Yeah, I mean they kind of were. I think they kind of got knocked off their feet a little bit with that pick six, because it seemed like it took them a while to kind of get gathered back. It ended up being a lot closer than I think what it could have been. But mistakes like that, sometimes that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so you've got to just respond. And Dexter did come back in the second half. They got a score to put them up, I believe 28-10 or something like that. And then they were able to, kind of hold on for the win. But, it was not it was a close game, but Dexter did what they needed to defensively, I think, to put this game away.
Which I think is good. I think that those are the measurements you have to kind of judge yourself by at the same time. And I'm not going to be doom and gloom about it, but I'm looking to that Park Hills game and like, okay, happened here, you responded and it's fine. Happens there, what's the kind of turnaround you have to make? Well,
I think games like this are going to help you because, last year you had a lot of blowouts in a lot of games. And then you get into games and it's like, St. Genevieve, for example, in that district championship game, it was like that, they were kind of knocked off their feet a little bit there and had to kind of respond but facing some adversity early and things earlier, the more adversity you face, the more used to you are facing it and the less it bothers you. So yeah, I think it's good to have some closer games this year. I think that just helps you again. You don't panic in other close games.
And then moving on, we've got Valley Catholic at Crothersville, 23-13.
This was a really good game between the penalties. A lot of flags in this game. I think at one point late in the second half, I think Crothersville had a 3rd and 52. It's just a lot of penalties. But did they get the first down? No, they did not. Very good game though. Valley is Valley. Valley is a very good team. It was tied 13-13 going into the fourth quarter. Both teams were just slugging it out, and Valley was able to pull away. Sammy Bryant kind of got dinged up a little bit, stayed in the game, but just was limping around, didn't look great. I think he only ran for like 55 yards or so. They kind of really controlled him. Hudgens, the quarterback for Crothersville, had a pretty good game. He threw for 177. I mean, good night throwing the ball for him. But Valley is Valley, and Valley is a very solid football team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. And they were able to control that big running game of Crothersville, but this game was a lot closer than those two were last year against Valley, and Crothersville just seems to be narrowing that gap each time.
Well, I think that's the thing to take away is like you look at big pictures. Crothersville's unranked, and I feel like underappreciated. They got blown out by Valley last year, and they come into this game, losing pieces that everybody kind of looks and is like, oh well, we don't know if Crothersville was going to bounce back as fast as they might want to. And obviously they responded to that of just like, all right, well, we can shear that gap away. So I think for Crothersville, I mean, this is not a bad loss.
No, not at all. And like I said, they're narrowing that gap. You're tied against the number 2 team in Class 3 and you lose by 10, but tied going into the fourth quarter with them after they blew you out twice last year. I think if you're Crothersville, hey, that gap just keeps narrowing and narrowing. And you're getting there, and I'm with you. Crothersville is extremely underrated. They should be state ranked. They're a very good football team, and I think as long as Sammy Bryant's okay. I mean, I think he is because, like I said, he stayed in the game. He was limping around, but he stayed in the game. So and didn't get many carries in that fourth quarter, and that's whenever Valley pulled away. But at the same time, you need him to be healthy. But if he's healthy, I think they're definitely should be state ranked, and they're one of the best teams in the area.
All right, that's all the scores I've got. Did I miss any?
Only other one I want to bring up is Donovan beat Missouri Military. That's 3 wins for them, which is the most that they've had since they rebooted the program in 2018. So, they've got some chance to get some more wins here. So good for them. Getting nice. Some wins, and that's a huge deal for them.
Absolutely. All right, Dave's dozen.
We'll start with Donovan. We're Donovan number 12. I'm
going to move them
into 12. They're 3-2. And again, that's 3 wins for Donovan is a huge deal.
Yeah.
And so good for them. I've got them at 12, and I've got Saxony at 11. I mean, again, we're going to find out more about Saxony coming up when they play some more local teams, but I think they're a good team, and I think they can move up really quickly on this list with a win or two here coming up in the next few weeks. And then Kelly, I've got at number 10. Loss. So you're going to drop a little bit. Again, I think that game was closer than the score, but
Sure.
at the same time, still lost it. And then at number 9, I've got Charleston dropping all the way to number 9.
Really?
Yeah. I thought they were maybe a little ranked too high last week, but they had a good record. But this loss kind of drops them down a little bit. And I didn't mention them, but Porterville is just right on that cusp of getting into this top 12. So
I think that's the thing that surprised me the most is just, Charleston was ranked number 4. Mm-hmm. I can concede them dropping, but Porterville not making the ranking just kind of, it puzzles me personally.
Yeah. I mean, they've only got one legitimate win.
Sure.
I mean, so
Sure.
it's I need like you said earlier, I need to see them win a little more. So they've got that forfeit win, which I think they would have won. And again, if they would have won that game and won it huge, then yeah, I probably may have put them there. But Donovan, they're 3-2. Give them their spoils, and we'll see what happens next week. Let me see where I'm at. Oh, Sykeston, I've got them dropped to number 8, and they just continue to slide. I think they're better than some of these teams on here. I think if they played head to head, I think they would win. But their schedule is just brutal, and I mean, you can't keep ranking them high if you keep losing. And
you'll get to see them play Charleston.
Yeah, that's not till week 9. So we've got week 7,
some time.
Yeah, week 7 they play New Matter. Then week 9 or week 8 they play New Matter. Week 9 they play Charleston. So those are some games against some teams that are going to right there ranked with them. So we'll see how they match up then. But tough for them. Scott City I've got up at 7 and moving up quick at 4-1. And then I've got Kennett at number 6 at 3-2.
Kennett moving up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Kennett's good. I think Kennett's a team that just continually gets better. Each week I watch them, I'm more impressed, and I think they're a good team. And I've got New Madrid at number 5. I mean, their 2 losses came to Dexter and Cape Central, who are 2 very good teams. So that's and they weren't blown out in either one of those games. So I've got them at number 5, and my top 4 are pretty much the same 4 as we've had, except for I've got Dexter at number 2, Cape Central 3, Crothersville 4, and then Jackson should have their own poll.
Yeah. I mean, week to week, that top 5 is, I mean, they're front runners. That's just how it is. And I like seeing a different team kind of slot into that 5 spot though.
Yeah. And New Madrid, and again, there's going to be some. New Madrid's going to play Kennett. That's 5-6 on my poll. So we'll, one of them will stay. Will be at 5, I would imagine, next week. And one of them might slide a little bit, but we'll see how they match up against each other. So it's going to be it's good. I think this is a good week of games coming up. I know we're getting ready to talk about them, but I think it's a really good week of games coming up.
Yeah.
A lot of these teams, they're kind of going to solidify their spot on here, I think.
Yeah, we're going to see some competition that kind of, bridges that gap that we've noticed.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about upcoming games. First one I've got on the listing is Porterville at Malden.
I think Porterville gets another big win here and maybe gets in the poll after this. Again, I just need to see a little bit more. But yeah, I think Porterville should win this and should win it handily. And we'll just kind of slot them in and pencil right now as in the poll next week.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I don't really know what to say about these matchups with Malden because you don't want to call it showcase games for the teams that play them, but that's what they feel like at this point. And it's tough because you don't want to talk about teams like that, but that's just where we're at.
Yeah, Malden's struggling right now, and it's just it is what it is, and it's tough. But I know nobody wants to win more than Coach Pulley and that coaching staff there. But they're just not they're just not there yet. And hopefully the improvement is going to be happen over the next couple of years and stuff. But right now they're just struggling as a program, and they have been for a while. This is nothing that's been just this year. It's been before Coach Pulley got there, and it's just something that's happened over time, and it's going to take a while to fix.
Yeah, and you talk about the 4-year cycle of just like your good players cycle in and out as they become seniors, things like that. It's just that's the gamble you play. Is
Yeah,
And then,
small schools, it's always, there's always the ebb and flow of a small school. And right now, Mauldin's just down, but a decade ago they were up, they were playing for state titles. So, I mean, it'll come back. It'll come back. And, the fans there just have to be patient. And, again, this is not something that happened just this week. This has been something that's been brewing over the last few years. So,
moving on, we've got Kennett at New Madrid.
Man, this is going to be a good game. Looking forward to this game. I think both teams match up well. I like Kennett in this one. I think Coach Wyatt and Kennett, even though I've got New Madrid number 5 and Kennett 6, and I like Kennett in the mild upset here. I think I really like what Ty Jones does at quarterback. I think they've got some big playmakers, and I think Coach Wyatt's going to have a good game plan. And Coach Collier's defense always is ready, and so I like Kennett in this one.
I think this game is going to be kind of that. I don't want to say proving ground for Kennett, but at the same time, you're going to be playing against a New Madrid offense, which we've seen flashes of just like they've got that big playmaking ability. So if you can stop that, I feel like that's where you win. That's if you win this game, if you're Kennett, it's a very decisive win for your program at that point.
Yeah, this would be a great win for Coach Wyatt in his first year back there. I think that New Madrid, defensively, they've looked better the last 2 weeks. Can they sustain that this week against a team that's probably a little bit better offensively than the teams they played the last 2 weeks? And that's going to be the key. And I think, for me, I think Ty Jones, quarterback for Kennett, is the key to this game. I think, he can make things happen and does a nice job. They've got a lot of weapons at wide receiver. They're going to see a lot of athletes out there on the edge for both teams. And it's just going to be a battle for back and forth, I think, of possible big plays, because both of these teams have that big playability, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, you want to talk about just like momentum. I feel like this is two teams that are getting momentum, that are finally meeting middle of the season. I feel like that's just a great setup.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game, and it wouldn't shock me if either team wins this, but I think it's just going to be a great game.
Moving on, we've got Sykeston at Poplar Bluff.
I think this is going to be a sneaky good game too. I think both of these teams are struggling. I think that Sykeston needs a win in the worst way. Keon Atkins was out against Farmington. I think he's going to be back against Poplar Bluff. They need him. I think Sykeston just really needs this win. I don't know. I'm going to take Sykeston. They lost 27 straight SEMO games in the SEMO North Conference, dating back to 2018. I mean, it's been a long time since they won a conference game. And so I think Sykeston is hungry and needs this win more than Poplar Bluff does. And Poplar Bluff coming off a 69-7 loss, so that's tough. I'm going to take Sykeston. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to take Sykeston.
Well, I think these two teams are very parallel with each other. It's funny just to look at the comparison of just like you said, Poplar Bluff's lost to Jackson and Sykeston's lost to Farmington are very just soul crushing. So. Yeah. Two teams are probably fired up about that of just like, all right, let's get this dub. And, when you're probably about the same skill level at this point, it makes for better matchups.
It does. I mean, and it's two teams who need a win in the worst way. I think both of these teams just need a win. And I don't know, Poplar Bluff is at home, but Sykeston's only win came on the road. So I'm going to say Sykeston's a road team this year.
Moving on, we've got Charleston at Saxony Lutheran.
Man, another good game. Yeah. I can't wait to see this game because this is going to be the game that kind of shows us how good is Saxony. How do they match up against local teams that we know? And I'm going to take Saxony. I think Saxony has that big play offensive ability to. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think there's going to be a lot of points, but I think Saxony can outscore Charleston, and they're going to have to stop the running game of Charleston. And Kirby's not a bad quarterback for Charleston either. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think Saxony just pulls this one out, and I think it's kind of a statement for Saxony to say, hey, look, we may be a first year program, but we're here.
I think it's going to be a shootout offensively. I think that's going to be the biggest draw, and then I think this is going to be a little bit of a drama filled game because if Saxony takes away a win, I think people are going to be like, well, hey. Look at all those Cape Central and Jackson kids playing on Saxony.
Good. I love drama. Good. I love it. But yeah, and it could be. But this Saxony team is just I'm telling you, they're going to be a problem in a couple of years for a lot of teams. They're not going to be in Class 1 for very long. These Charleston and Portersville, they're not going to have to worry, and Hayti, they're not going to have to worry about Saxony for very long. I don't think. I think Saxony's going to make a jump pretty quick here, and I think that Saxony. I think they win this game. I really do. I like what I've seen from them, and so we'll find out for sure what Saxony brings on Friday night.
Yeah, I think for Charleston, I mean, be prepared to play on a college field. I believe it's still at Houck.
I believe so, yeah.
And you know, from what I saw the last time I was there, Saxony brings fans, so you got stands pretty much mostly filled too on one side. So, you know, just expect that like Saxony's going to be loud and it's going to be a big atmosphere.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great atmosphere for this game. And again, I think it's going to be a really, really fun game to watch. And if you're a fan just looking for a game to go to, I think that may be one to go and see, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right, moving on. We've got Doniphan at East Prairie.
Doniphan, I think Doniphan gets this win. I mean, Doniphan just continues to again, I've been very impressed with their program this year, coming back. You know, they had to play JV last year, and just since they rebooted it in 2018, it just has not been good. But I really think Coach Hampton has got them in the right direction. I think there's some excitement behind this football program now. He did a nice job of scheduling, and they've played a really good schedule that's manageable for them. And I think they get this win. But I think East Prairie plays this game a little bit closer than what they've been playing the last couple of games. I think this game, I don't necessarily think this is a turbo clock game, but Doniphan, I think, pulls this out, and I think they've got that big playability that East Prairie just can't contain. I don't know anybody that's going to be able to contain Putman, and Alex Jones is a good quarterback for Doniphan. So I like Doniphan in this one.
I would say, you know, you talk about teams that need a win in the worst kind of ways. I think East Prairie's right there, and I think this is a winnable game. I don't know if Doniphan's defense can contain Tavion Ware as much as they'd like to. So I think this is one that East Prairie obviously has a shot to win.
Yeah.
For Doniphan, I mean, offensive capabilities, you're right. But I don't know. I think it, like you said, it's going to be much closer than any game East Prairie's played this year. But I like East Prairie in this matchup for some reason.
Yeah, and that's fair, because you know Tavion Ware is a beast, and if they can just get some blocking for him up front and give him a little bit of space, he's tough to bring down. So yeah, and again, it's another fun game. I think this is going to be a really good game and a fun game to watch.
And then moving on, we've got Cape Central at Jackson.
Jackson's going to have fun, I think. I just don't think Cape Central can score enough to stay in this game. I just don't. And the Jackson's defense is tough, probably the best defense that Cape Central is going to have faced up to this point. And Jackson is offense. We've talked about that. Even though Cape Central's got a good defense, I think Jackson's able to score. I think Jackson rolls. Yeah,
I think this game looked better on paper last year than it does this year. Last year they had all the offensive capabilities they needed to kind of, you know, raise some eyebrows of like, what's this going to turn into? But this year you're much harder up.
Yeah, and last year they had that offensive ability and still weren't able to do it.
Right.
You know, it was still a kind of a blowout. So yeah, I think Jackson just, you know, has their way with Cape Central. And again, I mean, nothing to hang your head about, because Jackson's going to do that to pretty much every team in this area.
Absolutely. This one's just hard to talk about, because it's like, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, you know.
It's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
Moving on, we got Scott City at Crothersville.
Another good game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good games on the schedule for week 6. And if Sammy Bryant's healthy, I like them in this. I like Crothersville in this matchup at home, coming off that good game with Valley. I think that they're going to want to make a statement here, like, hey, that was just that was a tough loss, but I think they'll jump back. I believe it's homecoming for Crothersville, so they'll be fired up for that as well. So just I think it's going to be a good game, though. Scott City's going to be able to hang with them with Underwood, and I just think it's going to be a good game, but I think Crothersville pulls it out.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm looking at the game Crothersville had against Sykeston, and I'm wondering about containing Underwood is going to be a big thing. Mm-hmm. You look at that game against Sykeston, and you look at the final score. It was just like, okay, it seems very lopsided. At the same time, that didn't happen until the 4th.
Right.
So if you can contain Underwood, keep your defense on him, keep Scott City from scoring, obviously, then I feel like it's going to be a very decisive win for Crothersville. If you can't do that, if you let him break through, it's going to be a much tougher shootout for you.
I actually see Crothersville containing Underwood more than I think Jackson Gloff has a big game for Scott City. I think he's going to have to throw for them to stay in this game. I think he's going to have to make some big plays in the passing game, and because I mean Underwood's going to get his yards, sure. but I think they'll be able to contain him to where he doesn't have any huge gains, and because. But I think it's going to come down if Scott City can throw the ball and throw it consistently, that's going to cause Crothersville some problems because I've noticed they kind of struggle against the pass a little bit against Valley and against Sykeston as well. They kind of struggle in pass defense at times. So I think that's where I think Scott City can make some make some yards and really kind of cause some problems.
Well, you want to talk about run containment too. I mean, if you focus your defense on Underwood, you got to think. Jackson Gloff can obviously throw the ball, but he's also a dual threat quarterback. I've seen him run the ball too.
Yeah.
So I would just, that becomes one of those situations of just like, all right, measure your defense where you can.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, a lot of these teams, they all have the dual threat quarterbacks anymore. I think Pierce Baker for Sykeston had the same thing. He was able to get some yards on the ground. Your quarterback's going to get yards on the ground. I think to be successful, you have to have somebody who can kind of move a little bit at quarterback. And so I think Crothersville will be ready for that. But again, I think this is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think we're going to be in the 30s in this one or more. But I could be wrong, but I just see this as being a high scoring game as long as Sammy Bryant is healthy for Crothersville and everybody's good to go.
Yeah, I think that's more of the talking point is that can Scott City's defense hold back Crothersville, which I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean I'm telling you that they're a tough matchup because they've got weapons and I really like their quarterback too, Hudgens. I mean, he's kind of, you don't really mention him much with Sammy Bryant, but Hudgens plays well too. He's strong and physical. He had a heck of a touchdown run against Valley where he just drugged people in the end zone. He's a good player and he's tough and so I just really like this game. This is probably my favorite game of the week. I don't know, just because I think it's two very good teams playing.
Yeah, I can see that. All right. Parkview at Hayti. I
like Parkview in this one. Parkview's played a tough schedule. I know they're 1-4. Got a good win against Branson on Friday, but they play some really tough teams over there in Springfield, and I think they come over and take care of Hayti. I mean, it's Hayti is struggling right now. I don't know about they're We'll just see, but Hayti has the ability to make some big plays. But I think Parkview is going to be able to come over here. They're a bigger school, and I think Parkview is going to be able to come over here and get a win.
But if Hayti does get this one, you think that kind of reshapes the program a little bit?
Yep, I think that the narrative changes a little bit because again, I think this Parkview team is a pretty good team. Even their losses have been tough to like West Plains and a couple other teams up there. They've been close. So I mean, this is not a bad team coming to Hayti and. So yeah, I think if Hayti is able to get this win, that'll open my eyes a little bit. Maybe get me back on board that Hayti bandwagon.
And then finally, this will be the game that's on A-Corp Sports this Friday. We've got Dexter at Kelly.
I feel like this Dexter Kelly game is going to be very similar to the Dexter Southern Boone game. I think Southern Boone likes to run the ball. They're going to defensively they're solid. I've heard that these two teams don't like each other. I don't know what happened. Apparently some stuff in summer. They're pretty competitive against each other. So, I think that's going to play in. I think it's homecoming for Dexter. They'll be fired up, but I think it's very similar to the Southern Boone game. And I'm going to take Dexter by a couple of scores.
I can see that. I mean, you contain Dexter's run game and then force them to pass the ball. You've got some avenues to start whittling away at them, but other than that, I mean, I don't know. You've talked about Kelly's defense all year is that it's a grind you out defense. I just don't feel like they're going to be able to do that much against Dexter.
Yeah, I like Dexter's offensive line better than what Kelly's played to this point. And so we'll see. Again, Kelly's going to slow that game down. I mean, they're gonna really slow it down. I don't know if Dexter's going to, maybe Dexter puts up 40, 50 points, but I just don't see it. I think it's more of a, I don't know how much Kelly's going to be able to score on that Dexter defense. That Dexter defense is tough, but yeah, I think Dexter pulls this out, but I don't know if it's a huge blowout, just one of those games where you're just like a lot of highlight reel stuff. I could be wrong, but I do think Dexter pulls this one out and gets a good win here.
All right, that's all the games I've got on my listing. Anything I missed?
No, I don't think so. I think it's, but again, this is a really good week of football
really good
coming
week.
up, and hopefully we're not disappointed on the show next week with a bunch of blowouts and things. But I really want to see some good close games this week.
Absolutely. All right, David. Any final thoughts?
No, just can't wait to see these games, and we'll talk to everybody next week.
All right. This has been the SEMO Sports Zone. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching.